Hi, it's Dane, and today is the 1st of April, and I want to tell you about, I want to about two things today. Number one is on a map where it is going and who I'm going to be building it for, essentially. And then the second part of this video is going to be about Touchdreams, my website agency, and how working on Touchdreams and where we're taking Touchdreams affects what I do with on a map. All right, so firstly, I've been thinking about who do I want to appeal to with on a map, and there's basically two audiences the way I see it, and therefore two streams of income. The first is the sort of general public. This is people who are interested in seeing things on maps, and what these people might be doing is they watch news or they read newspapers, and they see current affairs, and they decide that they want to see what it looks like. For instance, there's bombings in a particular country as one country is invading another, and they want to see this on a map. Where are the front lines? What facilities are being bombed? What does the infrastructure in the defending country look like on a map? These are the general public. They're interested enough potentially to look up and to Google, the bombings in the city on a map, but they may be not interested enough to pay for it. They're not power users. They're not going to be adding multiple layers to this map. They just want to see something visualized. And these sorts of people are probably not going to be paying users. They're not going to be used to paying for news, although some people do pay a subscription to a newspaper, but in general, most of them are not. So this is essentially appealing to the mass public, the interested part of the mass public, and the people where revenue might come in from this is advertising. So that's getting a huge audience, and then because of the audience, advertisers will be interested in advertising on the platform. That's not necessarily the route I want to take on a map, but if it's a good strategy to get started, then I'll pursue it. The second group I see is people who want to use on a map for their work. This is, I would say, power users, people who are going to be adding multiple layers, and they're going to be want to use various features of the mapping tool, not in a advanced scientific way, but just in a sort of exploratory way. Maybe they're in charge of logistics for their company, and they're planning routes of shipping and delivery, or maybe they're researchers with a hypothesis they want to test, but before they get stuck into the research, they want to do some preliminary investigations. Maybe they are non-profit organizations or international institutions that need to deliver aid, and they need to figure out the lay of the land of their target area that they want to deliver this aid to. And these sorts of people, their institutions are most likely to be willing to pay for the software if it's genuinely helpful for their people, their researchers, their logistics people, their mapping people. So this is essentially who I originally designed or envisioned on a map for. It's people who want to use it as a tool. It's much easier and faster to use than something like advanced GIS software, but it gives you way more features than you could if you were just using paper maps or Google Maps or something like that. It's a really nice tool that's in between that a lot of people who do use maps for their work would love to use as a starting point for all of their work. These people would be willing to pay for it, so they are essentially a potential revenue stream. So the question is, which of these two directions do I want to take it, at least initially? On a map could serve both of these audiences, but especially when it comes to creating content, if I'm doing this for the general public, on a map needs to focus much more on finding and creating this content that I map, and then I present and I publish and I spread the word about this content that we've created that's linked to what's happening in the news. Whereas if I'm focusing on these power users, it's much more about the tools and the features, and of course data sets that they could add with the click of a button. I want to add a weather layer or a geological data layer, or climate, or routes of traffic, or routes of airlines, or routes of shipping, or anything like that. Those power users, there's sort of data sets as opposed to the presentation of news type maps. So it's a slightly different direction that I would take my work building on a map. And the big question in my mind is it helpful to target, to go after the first group, which is the mass public and paying advertisers? Would that help the second group, which I really want to build on a map for? And I think potentially the answer is yes, for three reasons. Number one, because it could bring in some initial revenue. The advertising could be a good source of initial revenue. Number two, because getting a lot of people interested from the general public, of all those people, a small portion of them might actually be using maps for their work. So perhaps somebody is watching the news one night and Google's on a map, the bombings in a city on a map, and they see it and they find this fascinating. And then the very next day they go into their office for work and they decide, I want to use on a map. I saw all the layers and the cool features it has and how easy it is to use. I want to use it for my work. So there's a potential portion of that general public that would actually also use it for their work. So that's another reason. And lastly, it might be a good reason to do it just from a motivation perspective, because it's hard to do something like this in my free time, or in anyone's free time, when you don't have an audience that you're building for at the moment. Right now, I'm building it because I love building it, and it's fun and it's a challenge, and I'm learning from it. But that only goes for so long until that motivation dries up, unless I'm building it for the audience, either a paying audience or a very large unpaying audience, and that gives me motivation to do it. So that's where I am in terms of thinking about two potential audiences and revenue streams for On a Map, which is quite exciting. Now I want to talk about Touchdreams briefly. As you know, Touchdreams is the website design and development agency that I've been running for the last 11 years. And my income comes in part from Touchdreams and in part from my work for the University of Cambridge. So, and Touchdreams is going through a very rough patch at the moment. It's very difficult. I've actually said to my team that this month, April, it's the first today, this is a critical month. In fact, it's so critical, if we don't make a profit this month, then this might be the last month of Touchdreams, because we are very close to profitability this month, because the last couple of months we haven't been profitable. But at the same time, we're also very close to running out of cash. So it's a critical month, and my team know it, and they're stressed about it, but they know what to do. We have the ability to come out of this and to be profitable. We need to complete our two current projects and take on two new projects for our two developers and the designer. So we know what we need to do. And On a Map, I'm obviously I'm building it in my free time at the moment. So what happens to Touchdreams greatly affects what I can do with On a Map. If Touchdreams collapses, well, then I have a lot more free time, but of course less money from my income. Also, if On a Map ever takes off, and I really hope it does, and I think it might, I would love to take my team across and say, hey guys, Touchdreams, it's not going super well, as you all know. Would you like to instead work for On a Map? On a Map can employ you in a similar capacity, because I'm going to need developers, a designer, an admin and finance person. So all of my team members that I currently have in Touchdreams might want to work for On a Map, which is quite exciting. I hope they'll be as excited about it as I am. So that's where we are with Touchdreams. What happens next is critical for both Touchdreams and On a Map. Lastly, I want to just talk about what I really need to do now, both for Touchdreams and for On a Map, and that is market research. I've been reading a fantastic book called The Mom Test. If you ever are going to start your own business, I would strongly recommend reading it. It's fantastic. It talks about how to speak to customers to figure out your, in startup terms, your product market fit, or in regular person's terms, if what you're making, if people are going to pay for it, if you're going to have customers. And it stresses a couple of really simple but critical things, like don't, brush off compliments. They're not helpful in figuring out about your business. And avoid generalities and hypotheticals. If someone said, I would do this, I would pay for this, that's not helpful. Instead, we need to be asking questions about people's past behavior. What problems have they faced? How did they go about looking for a solution? Did they go about looking for a solution to that problem? What have they paid for? How much time has it taken? The solutions that they've found. Those sorts of questions and dig into specific examples in order to figure out, would somebody be willing to, would they look for what I'm building and what we're selling, and how much would they be willing to pay for it based on their past behavior, not hypothetically how much they like the idea. So I need to firstly do this for Touchdreams, specifically in the direction we want to take it, which is focusing on the events industry. So I need to be speaking to events organizing professionals to ask them about the websites that they have needed and have purchased in the past, and what struggles they've had with websites. And then, of course, I need to do the similar thing for On a Map. I need to be speaking to people who would potentially be users of On a Map, both the general public and specifically people who use maps in their work, and figure out what they currently use and what it looks like, how much time it takes, how much they pay for what they currently use, and have they looked for alternative solutions and things like that to figure out who would be our audience and where our revenue streams would be coming from. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you've found this interesting and enjoyable, and I'll chat to you and a lot more in the next video. All right, bye.